Hey, I'm Alan from Redart, and today I'm going to be painting with you the Bloomin Chook. Now, if you want our stencils, you can go to www.redart.com.au where there's heaps of stencils. You'll get the stencil and the image so you can paint with us. So what I've got today, my stencil, I've traced it onto, today I'm using paper. Usually I use canvas, but today I've decided to use some paper to paint onto. I've got my 4 brushes. I've got a large flat brush, a medium flat brush, which is size 7. What have I got here? A size 9 round brush and a size 2 round brush for the fine work. Got my bottle of water, or my tub of water. Now I use a wet rag, sometimes I use paper, but I've sort of tended to go into a wet rag to wipe my cloth on, or to wipe my brush onto. Very important item, you're going to be wiping your brush a lot. It's a good practice to keep that brush clean between strokes. What else do I have here? Oh, my paints. Now, your choice of paints are up to you. I've gone with a white, black, yellow, a blue. I don't know what you call that colour. Let me have a look. Hang on a second. Now, I've been using paints from, these are acrylic paints from Montmartre. It's an emerald green. I've got a purple and I've got a brilliant red there. So I'm not going to paint the exact same colours that are on the image that you'll see. I'm going to get started. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to paint my background. The reason you paint the background is because the chicken's in front of the background, so if I paint over the background with the chicken, it's okay, but you don't want to paint the background over the top of the chicken. So I'm going to use my large brush. Now, you can paint it a plain colour, but it never looks great when it's just a flat colour. So use a variety of colours or just dab some white into it, and I'll show you what I mean. I'm going to use that light green, the emerald green. I'm adding some water to it to make it spread easier. And I'm dabbing that paint on, but then I'm going to get some white and dab the white into it, but I'm not going to blend that paint totally, because then it'll just go flat again. So now I'm going to paint over some of my lines, my trace lines, because you can still see the lines through the paint. And that's a handy hint. When you do trace your picture onto your canvas or your paper, do it either with light paint, I was concentrating. Do it either with a light lead pencil, just press lightly, or do it with a watercolour pencil, because it'll keep coming up through the paint. You don't want that unless you do want to do it on purpose, like I've done here where I can see straight through it. Now the reason I use a watercolour pencil is because if I had a watercolour pencil here and I rubbed it with my brush, that watercolour pencil would start to fade away within the water in the paint. So there we go. Now this green is quite darker than I expected it to be, so I don't want to use darker colours. I'm going for the pastel sort of colours in this picture. So I'm going to be doing a lot of watering down or whiting down with the white paint. And it's basically all I'm doing is cross-hatching and not overly blending. Making sure I don't miss any spots, because it's a habit I've noticed a lot of beginners do, is they'll do the background up to the edge, but miss spots at the edge of the figure they're painting. And then when they paint the figure, they've got all these edges that they have to touch up again, and they never get the same colour paint as when they started. So paint over the edge of the chalk. Now, here's a trick for you. At the top part, paint the green, or whatever colour you're painting, slightly lighter than it is at the bottom. It does a couple of things. It balances the picture. It puts the heavy part towards the bottom picture and the lighter part at the top of the picture. But it tricks the human brain into thinking, okay, this thick part's grass, and then we're going up to the trees in the background which have faded away a bit more. It's just an illusion. Now I add water to my paints to help it spread better, especially if you're using a canvas to paint on. The pores in the canvas, the paint being usually semi-thick, won't sink into the pores of the canvas, and you'll have all these white dots everywhere where the paint hasn't flowed in. So all you have to do is add a little bit of water to your paint, do a base coat, and it'll sink straight through those canvas pores. I'm getting this done quite quick because I'm painting on paper. It dries pretty quick, so I want to keep some consistency and not having different shades. I don't want to have to come back and try and match colours. I'm painting right over the edge, painting onto my table. Doesn't matter, it's white acrylic, it'll come off the table. Right, I believe I got all the spots. Yes. I'll use the big flat brush for that. Now I'm going to probably now do normally I'll probably do the greens, the dark leaves all around, but I'm not. The reason being is because it's a darker colour and I don't want that darker colour to seep through the flowers. So I want to paint my flowers, which are going to be a lot lighter, first, then paint up to the flowers with the darker colour. Because my flowers are going to have some black outlines on them anyway, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start, where will we start? I'll start this one right here in the middle. So here's a pinky colour. Well, what colour am I going to use? I'm going to use a reddy colour for this one, a reddy pink. And here I've got this problem of my pencil lines are coming through. Sometimes what I do with that is I'll draw my stencil onto the canvas or the paper, and then I'll do a whitewash over the top just to fade it away, let it dry out, to make the stencil lines a bit less obvious. So I'm going to put some red in this one. Now I'm using the edge of a small flat brush. You can use a round brush for this one. It's whatever tool you find works. If you're not sure how to do it, practice it. And all I'm doing is swirling, not over blending, in that white paint that I've put on the flower. Just giving it some swirls, and I want some stronger ones there, so into the centre, not overdoing it. No, I don't want too much red. I don't want to block out these flowers. Now, the definition for these flowers are going to be, I'm going to put some black lines later on, just to make it pop. Here's my first one. Now, I'm going to lighten this blue up. Already I'm realising, hang on, I can't get a good point with this brush. So I'm going to go to a smaller brush, smaller round one. That's a lot better. Now I'm starting off giving him a wet coat. Just so I've got some wet paint to work with. And what I'm going to do then, I know I'm going to be using some black outlines. So I'm going to go with some white. So we've got that contrast between dark and light in our flowers. I've got the white in this one, now I'm going to put the white in this one. So those flowers are starting to separate from each other. They're more like leaves. I don't know what I was painting with these, but we'll call them flowers anyways. There's a bit of darker blue at the bottom edge. You're starting to see that there, dark to light. Right, that paint's starting to not spread, it's starting to dry out in that paper, so just a pinch of water will solve that problem. Now, you don't have to paint these the same colours that I'm painting it. I'd rather, it'd be better if you didn't. I'd like if you painted something that looked exactly the same as mine. I think it'd be a bit unexciting. There we go. Right. So I've got dark blue to white basically. Let's do this one here. It's a yellow. Once again, I'm going to soften the yellow up with some white. I've still got some blue paint because I didn't wash my brush properly. So there's my base. Now I'm making sure I cover those other ones that I've painted prior, just to fill up the white spots. I'm going to put some darker swirls in this one, and then I'll put some white. So orange is just a darker shade of yellow when it's mixed with red. And I'm going to pump out the outer parts of the leaves. Some white. As you see, I'm not doing blending at all, and I'm only using the tip of my brush and lightly touching the painting. I'm only touching it just lightly with the tip. Now it's some yellow, just do some fill, give it a bit more colour in there. Just playing with it a little bit, just till I'm happy with the results. There we go. Let's do the flame thing. Flame will do. I don't know what you call these flowers. I don't know. I made these flowers up, so. All flowers in this painting are fictional. None of them are based on reality. There you go. You see there the blues coming through the orange. So we're going to have to put it on quite thick on that side. Now it's like sort of like a pine cone where I want to get some yellows. It's like a flaming pine cone. A good practice when you're painting is start at the top and work your way down, or start at the left and work your way right. Doesn't always work. I couldn't do it with this one. I did consider it at the beginning, but I knew I wanted to paint the dark greens last, so I couldn't do it. And the reason you do that is you're not putting your hand in wet paint. If you start this side and work down, you're working away from the wet paint. Just put a pinch of whites in that. Once again, I'm only just using the tip of this small round brush and just flicking that paint on. I'm not pushing too hard. If I push too hard, it's just going to wipe the paint underneath off. We don't want to do that. And I'm going to try something different. I'm going to turn my brush upside down and give it some texture. Oh yeah, I like that. That looks good. Yeah, there we go. Next one is we'll go to the big fella down here, I think. Yeah. So let's look at the colours we've got. I don't want colours that are going to be the same in the same spot next to each other. So we've got the orange blue, orange red, red yellow. So this could be blue. What else do I have on here? I've got, can't do red, or purple. I'm going to make this one here purple. And we'll get some white into that purple. Get some violet happening. Just for that base coat, I'm going to make it that little bit lighter. So I know I'm going to have to paint the greens in between these bits. I'll have to come back to that. The green leaves. I can't stress enough that I'm only using the tip of my brush to start with. Then I push down the pressure down. It's like a confidence thing. As I get more confident, I'll press it down in certain spots. There, I just made up a second batch of paint, and it's a different shade of purple. This is a good lesson. Always make up, if you're mixing paints, make sure you make up enough to cater for whatever you're painting. Especially if you're using oils. Right, one more there. You see here I'm painting over my background. That makes it stand out better than painting your background last. Right, so there's my base. Some of these are the ones that are behind are going to give a darker purple, and then tidy it up a bit. Because that's a shadow. That's the shadow created by the petals in front of it. Just put a pinch of darker in there. Think of it this way, everything you paint, there's a range of light to dark in that, whatever you're painting. My edges, some of my edges aren't perfect, but I know I can tidy them up when I use the black lining. All right, now let's start with it, go to the light. Let's bring it out from the center. I'm going to just give it a couple of scratches in there. Using the back of my brush just to give it some veins. Now I'm going to tidy up some of those edges. The difference between paper and painting on canvas. Personally, I would say paint on canvas. Paper is a very smooth surface, which is great. You don't have to worry about the pores and the weaving of the canvas when you're painting on paper. You don't have to undercoat it. But to me, I don't like the paper that gets a ripple in it. It doesn't affect my painting. It's just I find it annoying. But paper absorbs the water out of the paint a lot quicker than the canvas does. The canvas does it as well. It'll absorb the water out of your paint, but nowhere near the paper. Maybe if I primed the paper, it would not absorb the water as much, but I'm only painting on paper, so I'm not really worried about it. So the paint dries too quick on paper for me. I do like painting on canvas. I do like that texture of the surface you're painting on. Alright, I'm going to give some of these tips some white. Just a couple of strokes of white in there. And then we're going to do the centre. Just going to add a bit of red to that. Paint a ball in the centre. Using the back of my brush just to dot some texture into it of some white, purple. There we go, there's the centre. Alright, next flower is this one. Go back to the blue. We want a light blue. Of all these flowers, I've pretty much used just my small round brush. I'll push that petal out so it went over the top of the flower next to it. That's just giving it a little bit more depth, showing that things are on top of each other, some thickness. Doing my base coat. Now remember, if you want these stencils, read art, www.readart.com readart.com.au. Check out our stencils, go there, have a look. Now the outer edge, white. And these ones I'm going to blend down to the blue. So the white outer edge, it's more of a light blue it's becoming, but if the paint's not doing what you want to do, like it was for me, wasn't for me just then, wipe your brush. I got my rag here. Just wipe your brush on the rag. So I've got my white outer edge, and then I'm painting it, blending it, rubbing it into the blue, working its way down to the bluer colour, and I might even come in from the middle a bit darker with the blue. Once again, I'm looking for that variation from light to dark. Then I'll get some darker blue. I'm a bit crazy with that darker blue, so I'm going to work it back into the lighter blue. Working my way around because I don't want it to dry on me, so it dries as the darker blue, and then I'm stuck having to paint over it with lots of coats to get it to disappear. Whenever you're using darker paints, only use a little bit at a time. Sometimes you've got to look back from a distance and have a look and see how the overall picture looks. I see I've got to fix up this leaf here. So yeah, these petals, I'm working on the blending with these petals. Dark in the centre, light to the outside. There we go. Probably see my process here where I get a bit of paint, I use it, wipe my brush. Just you're controlling your tools. Now, I'm going to put this orange one in. Now, I'm only not following my stencil exactly. It's just a guideline of where you can put things. What would go good with the orange? purple. Too close to purple here. Gonna have to go back with some yellow, I think. Oh, nature is a good point. The one I'm working on now reminded me. All of nature is affected by gravity. So leaves will fall, petals will fall and lean over. Think about that when you're painting nature. Think of how gravity is affecting whatever it is you're painting. You don't want to see palm leaves with the palm leaves are pointing straight up. They don't, they fall over. Oh, there's that one. Let's do... There's some here I'm not going to do until I've done the green, because I want them to be over the top of the green. We might actually go to the green now. No, there's this one up here. No, let's go to the green. It's one of those things. You've got to make that decision when is the right time to do it. Right, so now we're going to fill in the areas that are left white with the green. And I'm going to decide whether I'm going to use this emerald green in the leaves. No, it's too close to the background. So I'm going to use white and yellow. Start up the top. Now, get some water into that. Let's try a bit of yellow in this one, yellow and white. Once again, to get those fine tips at the end of the leaves, you're just raising your brush up to the point. So it's barely touching the paper. I'm just giving those few flicks of white in the green just to break up the flatness of being green. Like there's a bit of light flickering off the leaf. Yes, so if I make a mistake, I don't try and rub it off, I try and adjust the edges to suit the mistake. As soon as you start rubbing things off, you're running that risk of making the problem a little bit bigger. A bit more dark in that one. I'm leaving that spot for another flower. Going well. Yeah, it's all starting to take shape. So trying to get that straight line. As a beginner, you go dab, 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 dab. Trying to just do little bits at a time, but get a bit of paper, practice. Practice doing long lines. If the paint's not allowing you to do the lines, add a little bit of water to it. It'll flow a lot better. See, I'm just putting those little bits of white in there just to make them pop that bit more. And like I said before, I know there's going to be some black outlining going around, and you'll see how that makes them pop at the end. Oh, it must be getting close. I've got 3 here. Now, I'm not trying to be perfect with my results. That's not what this picture's about. We're not trying to get a detailed. You don't see a chook like this in reality, in real life. So I suppose you say I'm trying to keep a cartoony effect. Just put the white in those green leaves. It's funny, I don't realise that I wipe my brush so much. Just fill some of these spots. Not all of them, because I'll wait until I finish painting the last things, then do some more fill. Right, let's get those last. We'll do this spot. I couldn't help myself. We'll get those last flowers in, and we'll work on the chook. So here, blue, purple, orange. Go another red. Before I do that, I'm going to put a tinge of green behind it. It's going to be too hard to paint between the dots of these. Now I'll do the dots of red. You can use the back of your brush to do dotting, just like this. They're a bit bright, so I'm going to use some yellowy orange. Maybe we'll use that orange. Some white, just to make them pop that little bit. Let's work on the top ones now. Clean my brush, change the water. a very yellowy green. Lighten it up with some white. Limey yellow. Lime. Right, I have to put some darker green into this one in the background. Just using the back of a brush just to scrape some detail in there. It's like little ferny leaves. Now we're going to put the blue one in here. Get some darker blue and some spots. And some lighter blue. On the top edge of those leaves. That's that one's done. Oh, we've got one here. Purple. I'll bring some of that green in first. The spot's too big, I think. Right, we're going to get that purple splattered dots. Just filling in the background and the white spots. Then we're going to get the purple and white. Now you can use anything you want to paint as a tool, a knife, fork, toothbrush, whatever you find that works. And you don't know if it's going to work, you just got to, until you try it out, so try them out, see what works, see what doesn't. Try not to go too dark. Let's try the tip. The back wasn't working for me. That's better. Touch up that red a bit. The edge. Yeah. These ones here, just going to put some green background in. So I've just lost that leaf, so we're going to have to fix him up, giving him a lighter edge to bring him back. There we go, that's a bit better. It pops him out. Alright, we'll just fill these ones in. We can't use blue. I can use down here, I can use a yellow, we'll go with the yellow. I'm putting it quite thick to cover the green. Just looks like a blob at the moment, so we're going to get some, put some red in it, into that. Well, like that, I've just done some wispy lines, thin lines. There we go. I've got some green spots here that I need to fill. I'll fill this one with another yellow flower. Get those red wisps into it. Just tidy up the purple a bit, give him a point. Now you will notice a lot of mistakes in your artwork. You will always notice lots of mistakes in your artwork. You'll never not have mistakes. Thing is, most people won't notice them. Quite often, no one notices them unless you point them out. So don't point the mistakes out to people, then they won't see them. We're going to do, what are we going to do there? Purple, orange, red, purple, red. Red. Just the purple strokes into it. We'll just fill up the greens. I think it's a tulip, this one. So we want a ready, clean the brush off, getting a bit contaminated with paints. So we go with a purpley, red, and white. Get everything there, that pinky colour. Some whites into that. We're nearly there. That bigger brush. I have to get all the paint out of this one because I'm going to use white. Now I'm just fixing up the edges of my chook. Yeah, see, it's contaminated, that brush. Sorry, it's going to have some purpley skin, this chook. I made a mistake. I knew this chook was going to be white. I should have avoided painting the background over the white bits. But I'm only human. Oh. Don't know what you call this frilly thing on the top of his head. It's going to be red. It runs down to his beak. Right, so we're nearly done with the red. I'm not putting any white in this red. It doesn't need any fine detailing. And some red around the outsides of his eyes. Do that green stem. So there's its base coat. I'll just do a pinch of highlighting. What have we got with that? That's a Now the beak. I think that's all we've got. His orange beak. I think I've covered all the bases. I think I've covered it. Oh, his feet. Nearly missed it. Just give it. I'm not even going to put any white or anything in these. I don't think you need it. The feet don't have to pop. Now comes the fun part. I've got my small pointy brush. I'm only going to be using the tip of this brush. I might where would you say it? I might put some pressure on it just to make the lines a bit thicker in some spots. But I'm going to do some long, straight lining. And you just want to use light pressure and keep going straight, don't dither. And we're not going to do too much lighting to overdo it because you don't want to kill it with black. Black is going to flow a lot better if it's got water in it. So I've added water to it. And let's start at the top. And I'll see I'm not doing all the way around the leaf. Just giving it some edges around the bottom. Stroke up the middle. Just using a light stroke with the tip of your brush. Now you can imagine if I did all the outlines on those, it'll be an overkill. If you don't get the edge of the green or wherever you're painting on, don't worry about it. It doesn't have to be a perfect edge in the perfect spot. Here we go, it's just breaking up parts of the flowers, just making them pop where I want them to pop above the other flowers. Whoop. Giving it a nice straight edge at the same time. Yeah, that's beautiful. Just mixing up more with water. Notice it's quick actions, just with the tip. Just random spots that I think I need to make something pop. Try not to focus too much on how perfect it is. Just relax. Putting a couple of black dots just to give some shading in those. I'm starting to think I may be overdoing it a little bit with the black, so I'm going to ease off a bit. But it doesn't matter because every paint is different. Right, his feet, can't forget his feet. Claws. I have had a problem in the past where I always forget to do the feet of birds. Don't know why. You see, the paint starts to get white gaps in the lines. You know you need to add more water. So get some line in this bit here, just some lines just to break it up a bit. There. Rightio. There we have it. Bloomin Chook. Hope you enjoyed it. Remember, if you want to get the stencil, you can get the stencil on www.readart.com, plus plenty of other paintings if you want to paint them. Thanks for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please check out our designs at www.readart.com, and I really appreciate your comments and if you subscribe.